if you don't do what you know in your heart is right and is true, and be authentic, not to overuse that word, but be your authentic self and do what's right. If things don't work out, you're going to have to face that for the rest of your life. And I knew, look, my father had a high power legal team. You know, my father was very manipulative, and I knew what happened. I heard him murder her. Yeah. I heard the murder happen. I'm the one who contacted my mother's friends and said, call the police. I knew he was lying to me when he said, oh, she got up in the middle of the night and we got into a fight and walked out. I knew he was bullshitting me. And then I continued to gather evidence and found the house where they found her body in another state. And one person believed me, and that was Detective David Messmore. So the reality is that there was no way that I was going to just let this slide or not be in that room and not stare him down as I'm testifying. And you know what? He would never look at me. Never looked at me. And that was something that, you know, and let me be very honest, it was terrifying, because the part of you is you want to do this. You know, you took my mother from me. You're going to pay the ultimate price. Right. You know, you've destroyed our lives. But also the fact of the matter is that I also know that if he is not convicted, I will most likely go back and live with him, and he will have his way with me for the rest of my, at least while I'm under his roof, or I could myself end up in a hole somewhere a couple years down the road. Remember that time when you thought I killed your mother? Psh, psh, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you spoke about that in the documentary too. You said, hey, we could, if he gets out, we go to Disney World or Disneyland, and I don't come back. There's some tragic accident in a pool or the ocean. I forget what. Well,
I was talking about, because that was before he was arrested, because he said that he wanted to take me on a father and son trip. That was when the walls were closing in on him, because for 3.5 weeks before he's arrested, I'm living with him and I'm gathering evidence, and every day going to school and giving that evidence to the police. Like when I find the house, when I notice the bruises on his arms, when I see the cuts on his hands, when I find that his behavior is getting off, the fact that my mother, that his lawyer is there every night. I mean, I'm feeding everything to Dave Messmore every day I go to school, because that was the safe place, and it's odd when you think about it now that like a child could be doing that. What's up, Gen X to the seventh power? Thanks for the super sticker.
Thank you.
She's one of my mods, so she's fantastic.
Thank you.
We, so it's hard to imagine, first of all, that ever taking place nowadays, right? It's hard to imagine that, because the trial was televised, so I was on television, which is a whole other situation. But the thing is that, when he says like, I'm going to take you to Florida, I told Dave Messmore, the detective, I said, I'm not coming back. I've been able to swim since I was 4 years old. I'm going to drown in the Gulf of Mexico. And find out years later, and when I was interviewing the judge for my father's trial, is he had a fixer in Florida. Like, he had somebody to take care of stuff for him, because he had stalked girlfriends down there. Because my father had many girlfriends and fiancés while he was married to my mother. It's a whole wild situation.
Yeah. It's another thing that I thought that was very interesting from the docu was you consistently wrote your father while he was in jail. Mm-hmm. What made you write your dad so consistently? What, was that trying to get him to kind of come forward and say, hey, I had done this, or at least get maybe pieces to the story that you didn't know about? Well,
initially it was, I wanted answers, right? Because I just couldn't reconcile or understand with like, why did you do this? And why do you deny doing it? And you've destroyed our family. And why did you just admit it, just come clean so everyone can move on, because that's all I want. I think that's all your girlfriend wants. That's where my half sister wants. It was people, our family deserves better than this. We just need to just move on with our lives.
Yeah.
If you can just give us that. And he wrote refuse on the envelope and sent that back to me. That's the letter that I read him in the movie. But part of it was, I mean, look, I will never be able to escape the fact that this is my father. That will never change. And I will also never be able to hide the fact that I still love my father. Even to this day, I still love my father. He might be a horrible person, but I still love him. He's my dad. But
God,
a lot of it, it's such cognitive dissonance.
It's so wild.
Excuse my language. It's such a mind fuck. But
it's all right. You can swear on the show.
But it's true.
But that's wild.
It's the mind fuck of all mind fucks, right? When you think about it. But the thing is that you have to understand that a lot of this growing up, writing him, okay, I want this connection. I'm trying to figure out what happened. Yeah. I'm also trying to slowly unravel the ball of twine in a way so I can, as an adolescent and as a young man, and try to come to grips with, like, am I this person? Like, how could he have done this? And if you listen to all the exterior factors surrounding me as a child, as a young man, as an adult, every time I get into a relationship and I tell what happened, and then they tell their friends or their family or whatever, they go, well, aren't you nervous? Aren't you scared that he could do that to you? I mean, his father's a murderer. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Which, again, that sounds horrible to say here. And I'm sure a lot of people are like, that's terrible. I cannot say that I wouldn't say the same thing if I had a daughter in the same situation. It's just human nature, right? So I'm always fighting those stigmas off. Besides just trying to come to grips with the fact that my whole world was blown up at 11 and be a functional, normal adult. But then there's also this thing of, like, could I be this person? Is that ingrained in me? And if so, like, how do I fix that so I don't become this person? Or how do I understand this behavior? So there was a lot of, like, for lack of a better word, investigation going on with myself, and obviously self-discovery of, could this be something that could really be affecting me or could affect me later on in life? Right. I need to be very careful about relationships that I engage in or people that I engage with, because I wouldn't ever want this. I mean, the worst thing for me is, like, I have a recurring nightmare of, I was just thinking about it this morning when I was driving to the gym, this whole sort of paranoia of ending up in a prison cell, right? Because I think about, around my father's age, and you just kind of, you go through this, right? Like I said, mind fuck, right? But I had to really try to get to know him, and also because in many ways, not only is half of my DNA his, but also, like, he's the last real living connection that I have to my mother.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, I can't imagine.
I
just can't imagine.